Former CIA Director Michael Hayden believes the intelligence community is under threat from outside forces. Hayden led the agency under President George W. Bush and through the start of the Obama administration. The retired Air Force general also ran the National Security Agency from 1999 to 2005. Hayden's new book is called The Assault on Intelligence: American National Security in an Age of Lies. It argues that forces, including the Trump White House, make the work of intelligence officers harder, but more important than ever. General Hayden, welcome. I want to get to the book in a minute, but President Trump said about ISIS that his administration has done a great job ridding the region of ISIS, but there has now been this attack in Kabul, a double suicide attack. Where do things actually stand with ISIS?
So the president has amped up the pressure on ISIS, both in Afghanistan and in Syria. A few more forces, maybe a little more local commander authority to get them some things done on the battlefield. Folks like me celebrate that. I call it kind of Obama plus. You know, a little more energy, a little more freedom of action. But this is a long-term battle. This is not one where you start spiking the football. And so you see in Syria, we're not yet done, and the local commanders are trying to say it's not time to turn the lights out. And here in Afghanistan, actually, John, Afghanistan is probably a condition to be managed, not a problem to be solved. We're going to have to keep the level of violence there down to an acceptable level, I think, for a very long time.
We are on the eve of a historic summit between President Trump and the leader of North Korea. South Korea now just saying that the North is willing to give up its nuclear program if there can be peace on the peninsula, and the United States vows not to attack. Yeah. Do you really believe that North Korea will give up its program?
Look, I want to be hopeful. The profession demands me to be realistic. We have been pretty much at this exact spot 3 other times under 3 other administrations. Now, that's not my saying we shouldn't give it another shot. That's not my saying that we've done some good things. The isolation of the regime, the economic pressure, all good. The rhetoric last summer may have made us a little more dangerous than we had to be, but we're moving in a direction that might give us an opportunity. Now, one thing I point out in the book is, what's the intelligence backdrop to the American negotiating position, the intelligence backdrop to what it is we've been doing. And if you just look at people currently in office and carefully read what they say, they make the point that it would almost be irrational for Kim to give up his weapons in anything like the current strategic circumstances. So when we say denuclearization, I hope this intelligence estimate is included in what our expectations are and what our negotiating approach will be.
And in addition to that, we heard the president's new national security advisor yesterday on Face the Nation talk about verification of that denuclearization, which is a further step.
So I think the arc, and again, I try to suggest in the book, these are wicked problems, and you don't need a president saying I and I alone, and they're still here because the other guys were stupid and ineffective. They're still here because they're hard. And they're still going to be here after he leaves in one way or another. So again, I hope we have muted realistic expectations here.
General, the book is called The Assault on Intelligence. What do you make of the president's relationship with the intelligence community at this point?
So it's had a bit of a rocky road. A good friend of mine, and I use this as an outline in the book, John McLaughlin, says the relationship has gone through 4 stages, all right? First of all was ignorance. I mean, he really didn't know anything about the community. That's not uncommon, but I think it was an extra dose this time, simply because he and members of his team had no experience in government. It quickly went to confrontation. Because the first time we had to meet him and discuss was over an issue that other people were using to challenge his legitimacy as president, the whole Russian thing. We've now gotten into a zone of what John calls inevitability. You can't live without it. All right, and we're existing comfortably, uncomfortably, depending on the topic. He still calls
this investigation a witch hunt.
I know, and that's why I said comfortably, uncomfortably. Some days are good days, some days are bad days. But the core here, even in this coexistence, is the president's view towards truth and reality. And that's the point I try to make in the book. We've had presidents who disagree with us. We've had presidents who lie. We've not had presidents for whom objective reality doesn't seem to be compelling.
But, General, people would push back and say, wait a minute, in terms of the intelligence agencies, you had the director of the CIA saying it was a slam dunk, that there were weapons of mass destruction. There was warrantless wiretapping going on for a long time. There was not truth told about that. I know that. And the Senate Intelligence Committee report on waterboarding says there were all kinds of untruths. So there was an underlying ground truth about untruths coming from the intelligence agency.
Look, John, I get it, hard work. But that's an argument about the truth. All right, that's an argument about what constitutes objective reality. I'm saying over here we have a trend line that seems to want to make decisions not on objective reality. Cases in point. The Muslim ban, remember, about a week out of the gate, the new administration. Because why? Because we had an apocalyptic threat from Syrian refugees and an absolutely dystopian vetting system. No reality whatsoever. And by the way, you don't see the intel community, even the ones currently in government, arguing for that. It was made based upon something else, not an argument over objective reality.
What about the fact that the president made the choice to retaliate against Syria based on an intelligence assessment of their use of chemical weapons?
Wonderful.
So he put action behind a determination.
He absolutely did. And I see evidence that when it comes to implementing, back to the necessity, inevitability, the president goes to the intelligence as to how to go do this. What I didn't see, it may have happened, I hope it did, but what I didn't see wasn't a question to the intelligence community for the broader context. Like, why did he do that? Is he scared or is he overconfident? What were the Iranians thinking? What were the Russians thinking? Michael Gerson, and I emphasize this in the book, Michael Gerson has a great phrase for the president, and this is the real challenge for intelligence. Michael says the president lives in the eternal now. There's little history. There are a few consequences. The purpose of intelligence is context. It's all about history. It's all about consequences, and hence the challenge we have. By the way, Alex, I talked about the phases. We went from ignorance to opposition to acceptance, inevitability. Phase 4 is when the Mueller report finally comes out. And we
Do you think he'll accept it?
Well, I mean, that's why phase 4 is different from 3. We don't know what it is, and we don't know what the response will be. But right now, the president has been chipping away, making war, delegitimizing important institutions like the Department of Justice and the FBI. Can that spread again, because he's done it before, to the intelligence community? And the point I try to make in the book to people still in government is, in addition to your own conscience, in being who you are responsible for these institutions, for their survival. You cannot accommodate so much to the peculiarities and quirks of any one president that you delegitimize the institution for history, the people, and future presidents.
Well, General Hayden, always good to have you. Lots here about a lot of different hot spots around the world, including Russia's continued disinformation campaign and how they're trying to influence our elections. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Congrats on the book.
Thanks.
The Assault on Intelligence goes on sale tomorrow.